My name is Nathan Agan. I'm the host and producer of The Working Actor's Journey, which started as a podcast. And then over 2020, we did some live stream readings. And then that blossomed into these workshops that we've been doing, which have been really fun and really successful. Everybody's really enjoyed them. And so just to give you a little bit of an intro of what we've been doing here, if this is totally new to you. So we created Working Actor Shakespeare, and over a month, we have a director and a team of actors work on one scene over that month. And as any of these artists can attest to, that is an extreme luxury to be able to just work on one scene over the month. If you're doing a production, you're lucky if you have 3 or 4 weeks of rehearsal. And very quickly, you're usually getting up on your feet and staging it. And so to have the time to really just dive into this material and mine it for everything's worth, everybody's really enjoyed that. The focus has been just to really explore the text. And what's been fun about this particular group is the director, Geoffrey, has used a couple of exercises that I think really epitomize what you can do when you really have a lot of time. And maybe we'll get into some of that or discussing some of that. I will mention there are other evenings the rest of this week where we're doing scenes. Tomorrow night, Thursday, there's a scene from King John. And then on Friday, there's a couple scenes from As You Like It. So I'll put the link in the chat box in the Zoom chat, but where you signed up for tonight, you can go back and grab a free ticket for those 2 evenings. We are planning to do future workshops, and so we'll definitely let all of you know about those if that's something you would like to be interested in terms of being an actor in the scenes or observing the rehearsal weeks or just attending this kind of night again. And we also we're very excited to launch a coaching program so that a number of the actors and artists that you see tonight and over the course of the week are available for one-on-one coaching, private coaching in acting and Shakespeare and auditions and singing. So I can put that link in there as well. And when I send out the replay, I'll put out links for all that stuff as well. For tonight, if you have any questions, you can use the Zoom chat feature as we go through the evening. And I will definitely collect those. If there's time, maybe we can open up the mic for people to ask live questions, but I'll definitely try to keep track of those there. I mentioned the replay link. One of the nice things about really focusing on the text is that it allows us to do gender blind casting, age blind casting, color blind casting. If you were present for the midsummer scene we did on Monday, there was definitely we definitely explored that. What the lovers typically might be cast as. We just kind of threw that out the window and involved a number of great actors. So that's been another exciting part of doing this. And each actor that did register for this, we have the actors that have been doing this for a long time and quite experienced. And then there were actors that were either newer or younger. They registered, and they, in addition to doing these weekly rehearsals, worked with both a text coach and a voice coach over the course of this month. So that was really great to offer that opportunity to those actors, and they can explore even more in depth what it's like to work with these kinds of professionals. Tonight is really just a continuation of the workshop. Different groups handle these differently, but you might see the group want to go back and rework a section, try out something. So it's just kind of up to the group, but we want to give you an opportunity to see what it's like to be kind of a fly on the wall in this process. Now, let me do a introduction of everybody. Let me go through that really quickly. We have a nice long list of participants. Again, thank you all so much for being here. Really thrilled that you could all join us live. But the director for this evening is Geoffrey Wade. Gideon Rappaport has been the dramaturge for the month. And then in the scene, Peter Van Norden is Brutus, Elizabeth Dennehy is CASSIUS, and Howard Leader is playing CASCA. And all of them right now are off stage, quote unquote. Their cameras are off, but when they come on for the scene, you'll see them there. So that I think covers it for me. And at this point, I will turn it over to Gideon, who will talk a little bit about where we play and bring everybody up to speed. So Gideon, off to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just say a few words about the play. There are two traditions about Julius Caesar and his assassination that Shakespeare inherits. One is the pro-Caesar idea that the universe is hierarchical. Caesar was the consolidator of the Roman Empire, though he didn't live to be emperor. And the overthrow, the assassination and overthrow of Caesar was a great world-class disaster, akin in the secular realm to the crucifixion of Christ in the spiritual realm. The other tradition was the anti-Caesar tradition and pro-Republican that thought of the conspirators as defending the Republic of the Senate and overthrowing a would-be tyrant who had all kinds of weak characteristics as a person. And both those traditions are received by Shakespeare, and he needs to attend to both of them, and he does in this play. But ultimately, he comes down on the side of the hallowed Julius Caesar as the founder of the empire, and the way he does it is by recognizing a difference between Caesar's life and body and Caesar's spirit. That has more to do with what happens in the later part of the play, but it touches on what we're going to see tonight, because we're watching Act 1, Scene 2, and in that, Cassius is trying to reach Brutus with the idea of doing something about Caesar's incipient intentions to become emperor or king. And then CASCA comes in, and he is also feeling the same way, an anti-Caesar idea. Brutus is the most honorable man in Rome at this point, and they want to win him over to the conspiracy because of his reputation for nobility. Cassius begins the scene by doing what he can to persuade Brutus, and then Casca comes in, and one of the elements of the scene you'll notice is that Cassius is going to be speaking almost entirely in verse, and Casca almost entirely in prose, and this rhetorically recreates the difference in their characters, which I won't tell you about because I'll let the actors do that. But both of them are in the business of trying to undermine this idea that Caesar ought to be the absolute monarch of Rome. I think that's all I want to say to introduce, and so I'll turn it over to Geoffrey, who will introduce the scene.
Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Geoffrey Wade. I directed this scene. We've had just a wonderful time working on it. We're gonna go through it a couple times tonight. We'll go through once, and I've asked the actors to take slightly different approaches to that, which we can discuss later. I really hope that you guys will have people who are watching, and I'm delighted to see so many people, that you will ask those questions on the chat to, excuse me, to Nathan, or hang around afterwards and ask us in person. We've made some really interesting journeys on this. I'm going to now actually, I'm going to have the actors come on and introduce themselves, then we're all going to go away. So actors, can you just switch your cameras on for a second? And just so we know who's playing which. Elizabeth, why don't you start? Introduce yourself and who you're playing.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Dennehy. I'm playing Cassius.
And Peter?
Hi, Peter Van Norden, Brutus.
And Howard?
Howard Leader, I'm playing Casca.
Great. Now, if you guys will all go off, and I will just take one more second to say that once we get everybody gone, there we go. Good. So we're about to start. I want to give the actors, enough time to settle themselves and remember all the stuff we've been doing before they start. So off we go. Enjoy.
Will you go see the order of the course?
Not I.
I pray you do.
I am not gamesome. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is Antony. Let me not hinder, Cassius, your desires. I'll leave you.
Brutus! I do observe you now of late. I have not from your eyes that gentleness and show of love as I was wont to have. You bear too stubborn and too strange a hand over your friend that loves you.
Cassius, be not deceived. If I have veiled my look, I turn the trouble of my countenance merely upon myself. Vexed I am of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself, which give some soil, perhaps, to my behaviors. But let not therefore my good friends be grieved, among which number, Cassius, be you one, nor construe any further my neglect than that poor Brutus, with himself at war, forgets the shows of love to other men.
Then, Brutus, I have much mistook your passion, by means whereof this breast of mine hath buried thoughts of great value, worthy cogitations. Tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face?
No, Cassius, for the eye sees not itself, but by reflection, by some other things.
'Tis just. And it is very much lamented, Brutus, that you have no such mirrors as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye, that you might see your shadow. I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes.
Into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me?
Therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of yourself which you yet know not of. And be not jealous on me, gentle Brutus. Were I a common laughter, or did use to stale with ordinary oaths my love to every new protester, if you know that I do fawn on men and hug them hard and after scandal them, or if you know that I profess myself in banqueting to all the rout, then hold me dangerous.
What means this shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar for their king.
Ay, do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so.
I would not, Cassius. Yet I love him well. But wherefore do you hold me here so long? What is it that you would impart to me? If it be aught toward the general good, set honor in one eye and death in the other. And I will look upon both indifferently, for let the gods so speed me, as I love the name of honor more than I fear death.
I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as lieve not be, as live to be, in awe of such a thing as myself. I was born as free as Caesar, so were you. We both have fed as well, and we can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. For once, upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, "Darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood, and swim to yonder point?" Upon the word, accoutered as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So indeed he did. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside and stemming it with hearts of controversy. But ere we could arrive at the point proposed, Caesar cried, "Help me, Cassius, or I sink." I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Anchises bear, so from the waves of Tiber did I the tired Caesar. And this man is now become a god. And Cassius is a wretched creature, and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly but nod on him. You gods, it doth amaze me, a man of such feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world, and bear the palm alone.
Another general shout. I do believe these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar.
Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs, and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, it is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now, in the names of all the gods at once, upon what meat doth this our Caesar feed, that he is grown so great? Age, thou art shamed. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When went there by an age since the great flood? But it was famed with more than one man. When could they say till now that talked of Rome, that her wide walks encompassed but one man? Now is it Rome indeed, and room enough, when there is in it but only one man?
That you do love me, I am nothing jealous. What you would work me to, I have some aim. How I have thought of this and of these times I shall recount hereafter. For this present I would not, so with love I might entreat you, be any further moved. What you have said I will consider. What you have to say I will with patience hear, and find a time both meet to hear and answer such high things. Till then, my noble friend, chew upon this. Brutus had rather be a villager than to repute himself a son of Rome under these hard conditions at this time is like to lay upon us.
I am glad that my weak words have struck but thus much show of fire from Brutus.
The games are done and Caesar is returning.
As they pass by, pluck Casca by the sleeve, and he will, after his sour fashion, tell you what hath preceded worthy note today.
I will do so. But look you, Cassius, the angry spot doth glow on Caesar's brow. All the rest look like a chidden train. Calpurnia's cheek is pale, and Cicero looks with such ferret and such fiery eyes as we have seen him in the Capitol, being crossed in conference by some senators.
Casca will tell us what the matter is.
You pulled me by the cloak. Would you speak with me?
Aye, Casca. Tell us what hath chanced today that Caesar looks so sad.
Why, you were with him, were you not?
I should not then ask Casca what had chanced.
Why, there was a crown offered him. And being offered him, he put it by with the back of his hand, thus. And then the people fell a-shouting.
What was the second noise for?
Why, for that too.
They shouted thrice. What was the last cry for?
Why, for that too.
Was the crown offered him thrice?
Aye, marry wast, and he put it by thrice, every time gentler than at other. And at every putting by, mine honest neighbor shouted.
Who offered him the crown?
Why, Antony.
Tell us the manner of it, gentle Casca.
I can as well be hanged as tell the manner of it. It was mere foolery, I did not mark it. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown, yet 'twas not a crown neither, 'twas one of these coronets, and as I told you, he put it by once. But for all that, to my thinking, he would fain have had it. Then he offered it to him again, then he put it by again, but to my thinking, he was very loath to lay his fingers off it. And then he offered the third time. He put it the third time by. And still, as he refused it, the rabblement hooted and clapped their chopped hands and threw up their sweaty nightcaps and uttered such a deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown, that it had almost choked Caesar. For he swooned and fell down at it. And for mine own part, I durst not laugh for fear of opening my lips and receiving the bad air.
But soft, I pray you, what did Caesar swoon?
He fell down in the marketplace and foamed at mouth and was speechless.
'Tis very like. He hath the falling sickness.
No, Caesar hath it not, but you and I, and honest CASCA, we have the falling sickness.
I know not what you mean by that, but I am sure Caesar fell down. If the tagrag people did not clap him and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as they used to do the players in the theater, then I am no true man.
What said he when he came unto himself?
Mary, before he fell down, when he perceived the common herd were glad he refused the clown, he plucked me ope his doublet and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I would not have taken him at a word, I would I might go to hell among the rogues. And so he fell. When he came to himself again, he said, if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 wenches where I stood cried, alas, good soul, and forgave him with all their hearts. But there's no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less.
And after that he came thus sad away?
Aye.
Did Cicero say anything?
Aye, he spoke Greek.
To what effect?
Nay, and I tell you that, I'll ne'er look you in the face again. But those that understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads, but for mine own part, it was Greek to me. I could tell you more. Marullus and Flavius for pulling scarves off Caesar's images, I'll put to silence. Very well. There was more foolery yet, if I could remember it.
Will you sup with me tonight, CASCA?
No, I am promised forth.
Will you dine with me tomorrow?
Aye, if I be alive, and your mind hold, and your dinner with eating.
Good, I will expect you.
Do so. Farewell, both.
A blunt fellow is this grown to be. He was quick mettle when he went to school.
So is he now in execution of any bold or noble enterprise. However, he puts on this tardy form. This rudeness is a sauce to his good wit, which gives men's stomach to digest his words with better appetite.
And so it is. For this time I will leave you. Tomorrow, if you please to speak with me, I will come home to you. Or if you will, come home to me, and I will wait for you.
I will do so. Till then, think of the world. Well, Brutus, thou art noble. Yet I see thy honorable metal may be wrought from that it is disposed. Therefore it is meet that noble minds keep ever with their likes. For who's so firm that cannot be seduced? Caesar doth bear me hard, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now, and he were Cassius, he should not humor me. I will this night in several hands in its several windows throw, as if they came from several citizens' writings, all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name, wherein obscurely Caesar's ambition shall be glanced at. And after this, let Caesar seat him sure, for we will shake him, or worse days endure.
Well, thank you. Gosh, that was that was really good, you guys. Really good. Do you want to come back on? Everybody come back. I hope you guys were happy with that, because I certainly was. I have a few little things, and I think we can have a even more fun the next time through. But first of all, let me ask you how you guys felt after a week off and another. I've found that often taking these long breaks. I've done just a couple of shows where we productions where we did a production and then there was a several months break, and then we did the exact same production again. they seem to get better with just like time, with not working on them in a sort of like wine or whiskey or something. So oftentimes just the time seems to be a good thing. So maybe taking these weeks between is useful. Anyway, how did you feel about what happened that time? And let's start with Peter, since you're at the bottom of my stack.
So it felt like it was a week off.
Yeah. There's a few of them. Yeah.
There were a lot of good stuff in it. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that you come to anew again after a week that sort of feeds you in a kind of interesting way, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, every time you make a little word burble or something like that, you realize you haven't really rehearsed it in a week. So
Yeah, good. Well, we're going to do it again, so don't worry about that. Howard, any thoughts? You don't have to, just if there was something that came up, you know.
My Zoom crashed just as they were starting the scene. So I was over here like frantically trying to get back on. I was like, oh God, please don't miss my entrance. Please don't miss my entrance. So it was all that extra little, zhuzh of nerves was good. But I think it went pretty well. So
Yeah, good.
I said clown. He offered him the clown. I was like, well, that's dumb. Like
I didn't even hear that. That's good. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, it's a whole new technique. Just panic.
Exactly.
9 seconds before you come on.
Exactly.
Elizabeth, excuse me. Anything in particular?
I don't know if this was because I just came off of 4 hours of teaching 38 teenagers, but I felt like I was chewing the scenery. I felt like I was being like really animated, and I don't know if that was just a holdover from trying to get 38 kids motivated. I felt so over the top.
Well, I would reassure you that you weren't so over the top. It was perhaps slightly energizing you more than you needed. I noticed you began to sort of, I think, accelerate through some of those longer speeches more than you needed to. So I think you can take this as an opportunity to settle down. But don't feel that you were way over the top, because you weren't. It was actually really good. I'll tell you two things that I noticed that I think might help you the next time through. And I know I've mentioned this before, and you're doing it really well. I just want you to go even further, is to make sure you stay on voice. It can get quite tempting to get all sort of TV and filmic, and since the mic is so close, we can talk that way. But it's just always better when you're rooted. Two reasons: the actual sound carries more information, and it roots you better. In terms of your thoughts or emotionally, because the second thing was, and this may be what you felt was over the top or overacting. I think I don't know what causes it, but I think you can be a little. There's something sort of you're naturally cheerful person, so there's something a little more cheerful about CASSIUS. There's a little more smile in her than there needs to be. I'm not saying you can never use it, because it's one of your tools of persuasion, working with Brutus in particular, and it's wonderful. Let's just not have it be your default thing, right?
Yeah, I hear that.
Good, great. The whole thing started off, I thought, extremely well. Just I had, for the benefit of the people watching, I had urged all these guys to really take their time, perhaps slightly over-observe pauses and shifts in intention the first time through, again to reacquaint themselves with the scenes, and it was just an excellent start. The stuff around Elizabeth, can you see your face, was just terrific. You really gave him time to see if he was going to answer, and he gave the answer, and then just wonderful stuff. This is a note I've given before. This is my particular line reading, but I really like it. When Brutus says, I fear something, and I still think the better reply is, I do you fear it. so that do is operative, not fear so much. It's what Dakin Matthews would call old news. The fear part of that is old news. Peter, excellent as always. Just be a little careful of drifting into a slightly mid-Atlantic speech. That happens sometimes. You know what I mean? It gets just a couple of times. Oh, and now I gotta look because I made a few actual line notes here. Cassius should probably get this next time, but I'm just gonna say it. It is very much lamented, Brutus, that you have no mirrors as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye, that you might see your shadow. One thought, right? There's a comma in there, but don't give it a lot of weight. Again, this is for my mind. Again, Cassius, only because you have so many words. Around line 104, and Gideon can correct me here if you want. The line is, I was born as free as Caesar, so were you. The I and you, I think, are the antithesis there. And it's the, I don't know, it's kind of the start of a thought. It's is it, I always forget this. Is that a spondee where we have a emphasis? It's not an iambic foot.
A trochee.
It's a trochee. Spondee is two stresses.
Two stresses, yes.
The trochee. Anyway, I was born as free as Caesar, so were you, right? It's not an as. Don't give her that as. I was born free. Bump. Oh, I was born free as Caesar. Yes. Sorry, my mistake.
That's okay. I just didn't want her to hear it wrong.
No. Yeah. So there's that. Again, this is interpretation, but I get to be the director, so I'll tell you what I prefer. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. Again, they've put a comma in here, but in ourselves that we are underlings. I like it better if it flows straight through. You got that? Again, fielder's choice, but that's what I prefer. You guys were great about picking up these places where speeches were finished and someone's about to leave, or attempting to interrupt somebody. Great stuff. Brutus, this is a line for you way around 195, talking about the people who were walking in. It's another one that would be better flowing together. And again, this may be it's been a week. And Cicero looks with such ferret and such fiery eyes as we have seen him in the Capitol. All one thing. You broke it up more than it needed to be. Cassius, I really like it when this line, no Caesar hath it not, but you and I and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness, is more of an aside. Okay? And honest Casca, but you and I and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness. Yeah. Casca, this is a small thing, and I think you're getting it correct. I just want to make sure that it's a slightly confusing line to read, and sometimes here. 276, when you say, the common herd was glad he refused the crown, and he plucked me ope his doublet. Just be careful we don't, be careful, make sure we know that plucked me ope means he opened his own doublet. Not that he asked me to open his doublet.
Called an ethical dative.
The ope.
The grammatical term is the ethical dative, and the me is not an object. It's just a throwaway.
Yeah. So you really want to be sure that me, I think, is attached to the plucked, right? Plucked me ope his doublet.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Not plucked me ope his doublet. You see what I mean? That there's a tiny little difference there. Because I know the first time I read that, I always think, what? He asked Casca to pull his doublet
That's
open?
yeah, that's what it sounds
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
I don't think I wrote anything else down. Cassius, think of the world was terrific. The bit where we were thinking, I remember I referred to Iago in the what now, you know, I've forgotten what the Iago line is, but what shall I do? How am I going to work this out? I think you can, again, afford to give yourself a little more time. I think I sort of decided the break comes for who so firm that cannot be seduced. Give yourself a nice little break there. It's like all people are like this. Okay, now specifically, how am I going to deal with this case? Okay? Give yourself the time there. Gideon, do you have some things you want to throw in?
I have a bunch of what Peter just called word burbles, and I'm happy to go over them if people would like, and a couple of suggestions. So we'll go back from the start at line 34. Brutus, of that quick spirit that is in Antony. You left out the in.
Right.
Peter, at line 51, construe rather than construe.
I knew it when I did it.
I knew you did. 62, Cassius. You paused after turn, and I think it's an enjambed line, so you want to get through to the end of the thought. You have no such mirrors as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye. 103, Cassius. In awe of such a thing as I myself, I think you left out the I. In awe of such a thing as I myself. 111. We talked about making this a real question. Darest thou, Cassius, leap into the flood and swim to yonder point? Throw the voice up there for it to be a real question. 117. But ere we could arrive the point proposed. You're adding the at, and there's no at there. 145. Am I going too fast, Elizabeth? Okay. All right. 145. That's just, this is my general everybody note. To is to and not to. And I just heard to find ourselves. 151. I want you to try hitting that instead of name. You've been talking about Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that word, Caesar? Why should that name? See if that works. 166. You inverted the two words. What when there is in it, but only one man, you said it's one only. Okay, you got it. 183, Brutus. I think that you said under these hard conditions at this time, and it's under these hard conditions as this time is like to lay upon us. Did you catch yourself doing that?
I didn't, but I probably did.
Okay, so just bringing it to your attention. CASCA 254. You're still pausing after still before as. I still am challenging you to think of still as a unit. It means whenever. It's not continuously pause as he refused it. It's still as he refused it, whenever he refused it, each time he refused it. So I'm still not hearing that. Okay, 275.
Right.
The common herd was, you changed it to were glad. And I think it matters because the herd is behaving as one person, sort of. 284. Oh, I know what happened. Instead of pausing after hearts and then making but the real beginning of the next phrase, you finished hearts and then you said but, and then there was a long pause, and then you went into the rest of the sentence. And I just think that's my example. That's an example of where I say the audience falls through a trap door. Like, what are we supposed to get from the but without what follows it? 296, CASCA. You left off news too. I could tell you more, you said.
Oh, yeah.
More news too. 322, CASSIUS. What was my note? Oh, I think you can hit from a little bit to mean away from. I see the honorable metal may be wrought. It can be manipulated away from what it is normally disposed to or what it is naturally disposed to. So that the from doesn't just mean wrought because of or wrought by means of, but wrought away from.
Great.
Yeah, you got me? Okay, you nodded. And the last one, 332. I think you can bring out that word ambition. It's really summing up the scene. And it's the thing they're afraid of about Caesar, that is his ambition. And so I think in those letters you're going to have thrown in at the windows, the point is you're going to glance at Caesar's ambition, which is going to move people to resist. That's line 332. Got it? Good. That's it. Good work, guys. Really good work.
Great. So having said all that, a lot of those were very small things and continuations of things we've been working on. I just thought it was a super first go. So now we've had a chance to go through it and relax into it a little bit. So let's do the whole there's no need to work any section. I just want you guys to, shake your shoulders out, take a few deep breaths before we get started again. I mean, really physically settle yourselves back down. And let's go through it again. And as opposed to being quite so deliberate as we had hoped to be the first time, just one of the, again, for those of you who are listening, one of the techniques we like to use, and I use, and everybody here enjoyed, was what's called an Italian rehearsal. So I'm not looking for that kind of pace through the scene, but let's just feel free to keep it moving. Again, observing all that wonderful stuff you've found, those questions that are real questions, those really significant breaks when you change your intention or try to take a new tack on a thought or make a discovery. All those wonderful things, keep those in. So I'm going to go away, and I really want you, Elizabeth and Peter, to give yourselves a good few moments before we start this again. And we will just wait for you. Thanks.
Will you go see the order of the course?
Not I.
I pray you do.
I am not gamesome. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is in Antony. Let me not hinder, Cassius, your desires. I'll leave you.
Brutus! I do observe you now of late. I have not from your eyes that gentleness and show of love as I was wont to have. You bear too stubborn and too strange a hand over your friend that loves you.
Cassius, be not deceived. If I have veiled my look, I turn the trouble of my countenance merely upon myself. Vexed I am of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself. which give some soil perhaps to my behaviors, but let not therefore my good friends be grieved, among which number, Cassius, be you one, nor construe any further my neglect than that poor Brutus with himself at war forgets the shows of love to other men.
Then, Brutus, I have much mistook your passion, by means whereof this breast of mine hath buried thoughts of great value, worthy cogitations. Tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face?
No, Cassius, for the eye sees not itself, but by a reflection, by some other things.
'Tis just. And it is very much lamented, Brutus, that you have no such mirrors as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye, that you might see your shadow. I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes.
Into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me?
Therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of yourself which you yet know not of. And be not jealous on me, gentle Brutus. Were I a common laughter, or did use to stale with ordinary oaths my love to every new protester, if you know that I do fawn on men and hug them hard and after scandal them, or if you know that I profess myself in banqueting to all the rout, then hold me dangerous.
What means this shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar for their king.
I do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so?
I would not, Cassius, and yet I love him well. But wherefore do you hold me here so long? What is it that you would impart to me? If it be aught toward the general good, set honor in one eye and death in the other, and I will look upon both indifferently. For let the gods so speed me as I love the name of honor more than I fear death.
I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as lieve not be, as live to be, in awe of such a thing as myself. I was born free as Caesar, so were you. We both have fed as well, and we both can endure the winter's cold as well as he. For once, upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, "Darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point?" Upon the word, accoutred as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow, so indeed he did. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside and stemming it with hearts of controversy. But ere we could arrive the point proposed, Caesar cried, "Help me, Cassius, or I sink!" I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Anchises bear, so from the waves of Tiber did I the tired Caesar. And this man is now become a god, and Cassius is a wretched creature, and must bend his body of Caesar carelessly, but not on him. You gods, it doth amaze me, a man of such a feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world, and bear the palm alone.
Another general shout. I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar.
Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we, petty men, walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some point are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them. It doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them. It is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now, in the names of all the gods at once, upon what meat does this our Caesar feed, that he is grown so great? Age, thou art shamed. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When went there by an age since the great flood? But it was famed with more than with one man. When could they say till now that talked of Rome, that her wide walks encompassed but one man? Now it is Rome indeed, and room enough, when there is in it but one only man.
That you do love me, I am nothing jealous. What you would work me to, I have some aim. How I have thought of this, and of these times, I shall recount hereafter. For the present, I would not, so with love I might entreat you, be any further moved. What you have said I will consider. What you have to say I will with patience hear, and find a time both meet to hear and answer such high things. Till then, my noble friend, chew upon this. Brutus had rather be a villager than to repute himself a son of Rome under these hard conditions as this time is like to lay upon us.
I am glad that my weak words have struck but thus much show of fire from Brutus.
The games are done, and Caesar is returning.
As they pass by, pluck Casca by the sleeve, and he will, after his sour fashion, tell you what hath preceded worthy note today.
I will do so. But look you, Cassius, the angry spot doth glow on Caesar's brow, and all the rest look like a chidden train. Calpurnia's cheek is pale, and Cicero looks with such ferret and such fiery eyes as we have seen him in the Capitol, being crossed in conference by some senators.
Casca will tell us what the matter is.
You pulled me by the cloak. Would you speak with me?
Aye, Casca, tell us what hath chanced today that Caesar looks so sad.
You were with him, were you not?
I should not then ask Casca what had chanced.
Why, there was a crown offered him, and being offered him, he put it by with the back of his hand, thus, and then the people fell a-shouting.
What was the second noise for?
Why, for that too.
They shouted thrice. What was the last cry for?
Why, for that too.
The crown was offered him thrice.
Aye, marry wast, and he put it by thrice, every time gentler than other, and at every putting by, mine honest neighbor shouted.
Who offered him the crown?
Why, Antony.
Tell us the manner of it, gentle Casca.
I can as well be hanged as tell the manner of it. It was mere foolery. I did not mark it. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown, yet 'twas not a crown neither. 'Twas one of these coronets, and as I told you, he put it by once. But for all that, to my thinking, he was fain to have it. Then he offered it to him again. Then he put it by again. And to my thinking, he was very loath to lay his fingers off it. And then he offered it the third time. He put it the third time by. And still as he refused it, the rabblement hooted and clapped their chopped hands and threw up their sweaty nightcaps and uttered such a deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown that it had almost choked Caesar. For he swooned and fell down at it. And for mine own part, I durst not laugh for fear of opening my lips and receiving the bad air.
But soft, I pray you, what did Caesar swoon?
He fell down in the marketplace and foamed at mouth and was speechless.
'Tis very like he hath the falling sickness.
No, Caesar hath it not, but you and I and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness.
I know not what you mean by that, but I am sure Caesar fell down. If the tagrag people did not clap him and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as they used to do the players in the theater, I am no true man.
What said he when he came unto himself?
Mary, before he fell down, when he perceived the common herd was glad he refused the crown, he plucked me ope his doublet and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I would not have taken him at a word, I would I might go to hell among the rogues. And so he fell down. When he came to himself again, he said, If he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 wenches where I stood cried, "Alas, good soul," and forgave him with all their hearts. But there's no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less.
And after that he came thus sad away?
I,
Did Cicero say anything?
he spoke Greek.
To what effect?
Nay, and I tell you that, I'll ne'er look you in the face again. But those that understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads, but for mine own part, it was Greek to me. I could tell you more news too. Marullus and Flavius, for pulling scarves off Caesar's images, are put to silence. Very well. There was more foolery yet, if I could remember it.
Will you sup with me tonight, Casca?
No, I'm promised forth.
Will you dine with me tomorrow?
Aye, if I be alive, and your mind hold, and your dinner worth the eating.
Good. I will expect you.
Do so. Farewell both.
What a blunt fellow is this grown to be. He was quick-mettled when he went to school.
So is he now in execution of any bold or noble enterprise, however he puts on this tardy form. This rudeness is a sauce to his good wit, which gives men's stomach to digest his words with better appetite.
And so it is. For this time I will leave you. Tomorrow, if you please to speak with me, I will come home to you. Or if you will, come home to me, and I will wait for you.
I will do so. Till then, think of the world. Well, Brutus, thou art noble. Yet I see thy honorable metal may be wrought from that is disposed. Therefore it is meet that noble minds keep ever with their likes, for who's so firm that cannot be seduced? Caesar doth bear me hard, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now, and he were Cassius, he should not humor me. I will this night in several hands in at his windows throw, as if they came from several citizens' writings, all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name, wherein obscurely Caesar's ambition shall be glanced at. And after this, let Caesar seat him sure, for we will shake him, or worse days endure.
Well, that was fantastic. That was really good, y'all. I have really. I mean, there's no point in giving little corrections because there aren't any. I hope that people are watching saw how effectively all of you guys could take notes on the fly like that. Elizabeth, when you said think of the world this time, it sort of made my hair stand on end. That was really good. There was lots of just wonderful stuff throughout. I think I'll open it up to you three, first of all, to speak in general, and then I'd like to have each of you speak a little bit about working on these characters, or we'll just combine it all. And actually, Howard, I'd like to start with you because CASCA is obviously the least well-known of these three characters, and you've made a remarkable journey in the course of defining this guy, who I think all of us thought was, what's the deal with CASCA, other than just reporting information, and you've made him into a quite a fascinating character. So talk to us a little bit about that particular journey, because I think it's been very impressive.
Well, I think for me, the note that you gave me, you gave me two notes that really helped me a lot, but the one that was really the most, I think, defining was thinking about, you described the scene as CASCA asserts his primacy, and suddenly it became not just this long beat about sort of snarky reportage, but it became that I was really trying to impress something upon them or gain status via them. You know, I think throughout this first half of the play, you feel these guys constantly jockeying for status amongst each other. And to me, that sort of really kind of set it free, that it wasn't just here's a story, here's another story, here's another story, but it became, what can I get from Cassius? What can I get from Brutus? How can I impress them? How can I wow them? How, you know, whatever he's doing moment for moment. That was really useful. The other note that was really great, I think, was, you know, I had always thought of him as just sort of this rough-hewn character, and you had described him at some point as this sort of front porch lawyer or front porch politician or something like that, you know, sort of in the tradition. And then I sort of, I don't know, I just kind of latched onto the visual of Will Rogers with this kind of aw shucksy, you know, and then here's some folksy wisdom, and here's, you know, here's how the world works kind of thing. And that really helped me a lot too, kind of to you know, just to ground him in something that was a little more real.
Great, very interesting. And I'd like to point out that Howard did some actual research on the actual guy, which was quite fascinating to see how Shakespeare, I mean, he's a real person, or he was a real person. Shakespeare took that information, again, Gideon, please correct me, that he learned from Plutarch and used some of it and discarded other parts of it, the parts that didn't really serve the play. It was an interesting little bit of research. Let me move now to Elizabeth, because
Can I ask a question before
Sure.
you
Oh, yeah.
to the next person? Howard, I only took 3 notes this time, but they were all things that I wanted to ask you about, the 3 of you. At line 280, 81, 82, when you're reporting what Caesar said, I just wonder, and Geoffrey, you can give your opinion here, what it would be like if you imitated Caesar's voice in those 2 lines. He said, you're obviously speaking in the 3rd person, but would it be fun? Would it be fun to do it in the kind of, I don't know, self-glorifying voice that Caesar uses in the marketplace?
Sure.
Just
on
a question.
But when he said he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? It just occurred to me this time for the first time. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
Sure. I think there's several places through the scene where he could do that too.
Yeah.
When he
I admired the way all of you sort of took the opportunity to do that, to make your disparaging remarks really disparaging, or to when you're mocking Caesar, you know, that was great. And the whole thing had this wonderfully clear and contemporary actually feel to it. I mean, we could understand it so well. And when you were doing your thumbs in the suspenders guy, Howard, or I think Elizabeth, at some point you actually did put on a funny voice. It sounds like normal speech, the way we actually talk all the time. It's extremely well done. Elizabeth, I just wanted to ask you about how you felt about doing this. I know at one point I mentioned something about not seeing yourself as doing a man's role, a woman doing a man's role, but as Cassius as a woman, and which I think you managed to pull off really interestingly. And do you want to talk about that or anything else in the course of working on this character?
It's very different from anything I've ever done before. You know, I'm thinking of angry women in Shakespeare, like Margaret and Paulina, and they are so emotional. And so keeping all of that, yes, it's not in my wheelhouse, this. So keeping everything in, and like not being like, please like me, like I was before, which is a holdover from definitely working with teenagers. Please like me, please
Yeah. Please be quiet.
yeah, and so I think that I realized that must be a default for me. And so this whipped my ass. I mean, really did. It was really hard to just be like, I'm not taking anything personally. Not, and I don't know if that's because of Shakespearean women being so emotional and everything exclamation points. Think of Joan of Arc, think of Paulina, Queen Margaret, and this not being that way, but using all of the words for the long game.
Yeah.
Is different,
Yeah,
very different for me and any other role I've ever played in Shakespeare.
That's terrific. I mean, I think there are certainly women, you know, oh Christ, Winter's Tale is classic.
Yeah.
She's Hermione, and you know, Rosalind. They aren't emotional women. They have deep emotions, but they're not, you know, they're not screaming queens either. But you know, I think you did terrific work. I think it's often a default thing. I notice it in many actors, men and women, but frankly, women more often. There's this is nothing on you, but I'm sure you notice it too. We'll add a little smile, or we'll do something to take the heat off, or the deep intention of what we're saying. I think it's something we all have to be careful of, to, you know, which you really were executed well on this last time. But all the way through, it got gradually more and more as you were willing to make Cassius you rather than your idea of Cassius. It got really rich. So well done.
I mean, what I say to my students all the time, you can't play equality, you have to play the action. And I think, yeah, you're at sea a little bit with take away, I'm not going to show the audience how I feel about anything, just what my goal is, achieving my goal. This was really, you know, I can't think of the words, but very, very, like, that's everything in this this scene. That's everything.
Yep.
Don't show us how you feel about everything. Don't play equality, play an action. And so I had to really, really stay focused on that.
Great. Peter, got anything to add? How did you, I mean, what I find so interesting about Brutus in this is how reactive he has to be throughout. I mean, with you know, he's in the tradition of Hamlet and all these people who are trying to figure things out.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me was, you know, he's a classic stoicist, right? He's a stoic. And he wants to hide everything he's feeling, even though there's so much going on underneath. You know, he actually says to Cassius, you know, what are you trying to make me do? That's not in me. Even though later on he says that's pretty much basically all he's been thinking about. Right? And that's kind of fun to do, is to try to keep that kind of bubbling trouble that's happening underneath, and not try to not let people see it. And then of course, when CASCA comes in, he becomes Jack Webb, basically, you know, just the facts. Because he doesn't trust him. He doesn't, even though he starts to open up to Cassius, as soon as CASCA comes in, he shuts it all down. That's kind of fun to work on.
It is a terrific job. And I actually took a note on, what is it when you say, I wouldn't have asked you if I were there?
Yeah, exactly.
Freaking hilarious. You guys all mined such great humor from this, you know, with your mockingness, and I'm a great believer in injecting as much humor as you can particularly into tragedies, because it humanizes the people, makes you miss them more when they're gone.
I have a question for Peter, if you don't mind.
Please. I'm done.
Peter, I want to know how one can do this. If you look at line 179,
Yes.
Shakespeare inverts the words. He says both meet to hear and answer. And I think that both modifies hear and answer, both hear and answer. But he interrupts it with that word meet, meaning appropriate. So I want to know whether, because I don't know how I would do it, but I want to know whether there's a way to make the both jump over to applying to hear and answer and not let meet get in the way. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
It just seems to me a really interesting problem in speech.
Yeah. When you first read it, it seems as if he's saying that we will find a time to both hear and answer such high things. But maybe what he's saying is we'll find a time to meet, to both meet, to hear and answer.
But he's not saying
both of us.
He's not saying, oh, find a time both. No, because he'd have to say to meet. There's no to.
Yeah.
I think meet here means appropriate.
I agree with you, but I also have to say that when I hear Peter do it, I understand it as I'll find a time to hear and answer.
I did too. I think
that's what I hear. So it seems to be working.
It was working, but it's working so well that I've never thought of it before. But when I actually looked at it, I thought, well, that's odd. He put that word meet in the way. Anyway, I wanted to pose that as a Shakespeare speech challenge.
It is a conundrum. I think there's a lot of ways to sort of play with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of done. And our people are, and Nathan, you want to come on? I just, once again, you guys, you three, super duper work, really.
Really, really good work, and lots of fun to hear it grow.
Yeah. Wonderful work. And to jump right off what Gideon said, even with a great group of actors, to see how this grows from the first week, just to kind of read it and then just from week to week, it's really wonderful. I will attempt to go through the chat window and pull everything out that people have been sharing. Just a reminder again, if you have questions, you can write them in the chat, or I will try to keep an eye out if you want to use the Zoom hand function, or if you're brave enough to just turn your mic off or turn your mic on, I should say, unmute yourself, and you want to ask a question, please feel free. I did want to say, we kind of brought it up on Monday. We were talking about humor, and Geoffrey, you brought that point up. And James Newcomb, who was directing the Midsummer scene, he said, I feel like it's almost cruel to do a Midsummer scene on Zoom because you don't get the audience reaction. And I was thinking about that more. And I think absolutely there's something to be said about that reaction. And obviously, there was some funny parts to the scene, but it's almost like it keeps the actor more honest in this medium, because you can't play for laughs to some degree, that you have to play the scene straight, so to speak. And so rather than an actor night after night going, oh, here, they're really going to laugh at this, they're really going to enjoy this, it almost forces you to really play the circumstances of the scene. I'm sure there were more than just me laughing at many parts of this. So there were some applause emojis flying around during some of the or after some of the scenes. But let me see what people have said. Some bravos and excellence. Eleanor said, taking a day off from juggling practice lets one unlearn one's mistakes. So taking a week off from a play might let one unlearn the canned readings one has gotten stuck into. Very possible. Maggie says, Elizabeth, after the first run, I loved your emotions. I say it totally worked. Marcelo also says, I certainly didn't think it was over the top. Jill says, fantastic point, Elizabeth. Cassius, when played by a woman, appears to utilize so many different tactics that are unexpected. Let's see. And Jean says, I want to say thank you. It's been so long since I've had a chance to sit in and watch some really wonderful actors and a great director work on Shakespeare. You all were wonderful. That's what some of the comments have been. And again, yeah, please, those listening and watching, feel free to ask any other questions or share any other feedback. I just had a couple things I wanted to ask. Howard, kind of on the point Geoffrey was talking about, this dramatic structure where you have two established actors in a scene, or two established characters in a scene, and then a third comes in. It is really interesting to see that third character be able to hold his own against two other characters. And I think to Geoffrey's point, you really worked, and I really enjoyed hearing what you were working on as the actor and the character, because I think you did really hold your own. And suddenly, even though we had been watching Brutus and Cassius, now it was like, well, what's CASCA doing, and what's going on here? So I think that it was just a really great journey to see you come into that scene and be as strong of a presence as the two characters that we had. So you talked a little bit about that, but I just wanted to share that was my perspective watching it. I would like to ask you though, since you signed up to be part of this workshop, what your journey has been kind of working on this and working with this group and doing the text work and doing the vocal work. If you could just share a little bit about that process.
Well, I was really grateful this came along right when it did. Gigi Birmingham turned me onto it, and I've been doing a lot of Zoom acting class over this last year, and a lot of it was very monologue and soliloquy focused, particularly doing Shakespeare. And I think people shied away from scenes, and I was really kind of hungry for something like this, where it's more a give and take and not just here's my well-crafted soliloquy kind of thing. So and also I think I was deliberately looking for just that kind of community that you get in rehearsal and so on, as opposed to, so it could stop just being me in my bedroom learning lines, and sort of get out and be working with people. It was also, for me, these are not actors of a caliber I'm used to working with. So I was like, just keep up. That was my subtext. So, but it was incredible, hitting the ball back and forth with these guys. So.
Well, to pick up that sports metaphor, they always say that, you should play someone better than you. Exactly. Well, and that's been the fun thing, is that, when you take a class and do scene work, generally the people in the class with you are, around the same level. And so, what is it like to, bring a lot of people together that have maybe varied experiences, but, you can very quickly see, how somebody takes notes or how somebody makes adjustments or what they're doing. Because, it's been fun to explore, well, what is it like if, because even if you were cast in a play, if you were fortunate to be cast in a play at a regional theater and you were doing, these great roles with these great actors, you just don't have this kind of time to work on the material this way. So it's been really great to see that come to life. And yeah, thank you, Howard, for sharing more about your inner monologue, so to speak. Peter, I wanted to ask, since I feel like I've been fortunate, and we've been fortunate to have you be part of this a few times, these workshops. How have you, what's been your experience of continuing to explore characters, in this way, in this length of time? You worked on Clarence and now Brutus. What's been your journey with this, or your experience?
So it's, all three roles that I've done here, Falstaff and
Yes,
Clarence and now Brutus, I've never done. So it's been fun to sort of explore just this tiny little gem section of each of those plays. Well, we did all of Merry Wives, but for me, it's just, you know, it's the joy of having the opportunity, basically, to sort of dig into these fascinating characters, and even if it's only, you know, one scene, it's it requires an enormous amount of work and an enormous amount of concentration and dedication to bring it to life as well as it needs to be brought to life, in terms of choosing characterizations and understanding the verse and how best to express the verse and things like that. It's always very satisfying to have the opportunity to work with really good people. Both Howard and Elizabeth were terrific. And to have this material is very special.
Yeah. Well, and as someone, Peter, who has done, you know, a lot of work in regional theaters, I imagine it's also nice to not have to worry about all the other production elements that goes along with, you know, doing a role like this.
The concentration is on the text.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about your costumes. You don't have to worry about your dressing room. You don't have to worry about the other actors. You know, are they going to make their entrance or not? There's something very pure about it, that you're basically just working on clarifying the text.
Yeah.
And that's where you really need to start with any Shakespeare play.
Yeah. And you know, I'll say from my own experience, I think a good barometer is, you know, if you're pulled into the story with just one scene and you want to see where this goes, you know, even if it's a story that you're, you know, familiar with, like Julius Caesar, you know, based on the work that you guys did here, it's just like, well, yeah, let's see where this is going. Like, I want to see the continuation of these characters in the story, because there's such specificity that you guys all, you know, all of you as a team, you know, brought to this scene. So thank you again to everybody. I'll mention another comment here. Joe said, Elizabeth as Cassius wants to manipulate and convince without being obvious, to conspire without sounding so, and instead to be somewhat chummy instead. I thought she hit that spot well, but wonder if Elizabeth is thinking that way. So Elizabeth, did you have any comments on that? I'm going to read that again if you need me to.
Yeah, I'd hear it again.
So it says, Elizabeth as Cassius wants to manipulate / convince without being obvious, to conspire without sounding so, and instead be somewhat chummy. I thought she hit that spot well, but I wonder if Elizabeth is thinking that way.
Yes, I think that I was thinking of being more inviting, more welcoming, rather than bombarding. You know, come along, you know, we have a plan and it's going to be great. Everything's going to work out just well, just beautifully. Yeah, being more inviting.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Great. Well, good. You know, as I've said, or I said the other night, or here, you know, this would be a good time for me to remind everyone. You can sign up for the other evenings that we're doing. We have King John tomorrow, Thursday, February 11th, and then we have As You Like It on Friday. And I just put a couple links. Oh wait, let me actually put the links in the chat. There we go. So you can sign up again, free tickets for Thursday and Friday. 2 more great groups of actors, directors, and then if you're interested in the private coaching, a number of the people you've seen here, you know, and you will over the week, will, you know, are there for you to work with. So yeah, I want to make sure everybody has time to ask their questions or leave their comments as they need to. But otherwise, you know, we can kind of wrap up, and the actors and the creative team with this, you guys can all just stay put. You know, I'll move you back into the green room, so to speak. But once we're done here. Let's see, I think it's Jules says, truly amazing how mining the text lights a scene up. It was such a treat to watch notes and experience the difference between take 1 and take 2. Yes, I agree. It was really, it was almost fun seeing two versions of the scene that you know, Jeffrey, I don't know if what your take was, but it, you know, to some degree it was like, well, yeah, both worked. I mean, like the, you know, and it's,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
both worked. And I know you'd mentioned, you had talked about two rehearsal techniques that we used.
Yes.
And I mentioned, I'll just say this real quick because nobody's asking any questions. One, the first one we use, I think, I can't remember now when we do it. I think in the second week, third week. It involves going incredibly slowly through the text, and it's trying in a way to deal with the Zoom medium, where I ask the actor, whoever is speaking, she has to look down or look on the wherever she has the script, pick up as much of the lineage as she can, whether that's 3 words or 3 sentences, and then give it directly to the camera. Don't look down, don't look at your partner, look directly into the camera. The other person in the scene spends his time watching her and nothing else, not looking at his script, not getting ready. It's slow and kind of painful at first, and then the person who speaks next doesn't look down until he's sort of received the energy. It's like acting 101. When you've received the ball of energy, when you think the speech is over, that's when you look down. Most of us are generous and thoughtful actors, and as we know the other person is approaching the end of their line, we tend to look down so that we can pick up the cue and then give it right to them. This gets around that, so that each person, as much as possible, speaks directly to their scene partner for as long as possible. It's a long, laborious thing, but it works extremely well. It gives everyone a chance to really mine the text and get some kind of connection with their scene partner. That's one technique. The other one, which we do a following week, when we've had a chance to really work scenes, do little notes, do line notes. It's fantastic having a dramaturg right here all the time to get scansion correct and all kinds of things. We go through and do what I call an Italian rehearsal, which is also extremely demanding. They're often sort of thrown away as just line runs. But the essence to me, and to those of, we all enjoyed doing it, so the people who enjoy doing it, is to go through as quickly as you can while maintaining your intentions, maintaining even the pauses. Instead of making it one beat, you make it you acknowledge it and move through. But there's never a break between lines, and it forces you to act on the line. It forces you to move through things quickly. It forces you to connect thoughts, and it's marvelous, particularly with Shakespeare, although I find it works with almost everything. It forces you, the actor, to pick out the operative words. You simply don't have time to wander through the sentence, thoughtfully, examining each tree in the forest. It forces you to really pick up operative words, and then, of course, next time through, you hang back a bit. So those are the two things that Nathan was referring to earlier.
Yeah, thank you, Geoffrey.
Just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, no.
If anybody was wondering what our secret sauce is made of.
I don't, no, thank you for bringing that up. And it is great that, with both of those exercises, I mean, certainly, I can't imagine any play rehearsal that would have time to do that one line at a time technique on stage, and even Italian runs, you're dealing with the whole play. And so just to be able to really narrow down, it's wonderful that we have that time here to do that. I wanted to also ask Gideon, if there was anything that you wanted to share of your experience, working on this scene. I know you have had a long career of working on Shakespeare, but just in terms of this specific scene, or what your journey has been over these last few weeks.
Well, I'll quote a neighbor of mine. I asked how he was doing months ago in the height of the lockdowns. And he said, I'm an introvert with OCD, so I'm in heaven. So I'm feeling like that on Zoom. I really don't like Zoom at all. I really like to be in the theater. I like to
Sure.
work face to face, but I've been basking in the heavenly pleasure of being allowed to give notes all the way through the process and see people take them and make the thing better. And it's a luxury to me, because as I've told my colleagues, the most the most I get from both directors and play schedules is one day to respond to a table reading, and then maybe the opportunity to pull actors aside and work with them individually while they're not on stage. So I'm always kind of rushing to fill in my notes between, blocking and tech rehearsals and all the other stuff, costumes. So in this medium, I'm feeling the luxurious pleasure of being able to work with superb actors on the text and watch them bring how I understand Shakespeare's meaning alive. And it's thrilling. It's just absolutely thrilling. And I'm very, very grateful to all the participants for putting up with my line notes, because in the end, I think it's rewarding for me for sure, but it's also, I think, rewarding for the audience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really all I wanted to say. Just gratitude for the opportunity to work so closely on the text.
Well, you're very welcome. We're thrilled that you can be part of this, and of course, that word luxury comes up a lot, because and you bring up a great point. Not only is it a luxury to take the time for the actors, but for them to be able to work at this level and depth with somebody like yourself, Gideon, to really look at the text. And I think I feel like I've witnessed opportunities with all the actors here and in all the scenes where they are better because of something you heard, that even with their level of experience, just to have another set of ears or eyes on the text, just brings something out that, and certainly the actors who are more experienced can, as you said, can quickly understand what you're saying and figure out how to integrate that to make the scene clearer, because that's what everyone's objective is I want to be clear. I want to tell the story clearly, so no one is working at cross purposes. It's just wonderful to have you part of this. So no, it's been great. So
thank you very much.
Cool. Well, if there aren't any more questions, that is totally fine. If there's anything else that the Julius Caesar group wants to add, then you certainly can. Otherwise, we can kind of wrap up the public part of this evening, and then we can have the Dionysian event afterward. But yes.
Can I just
yes,
quickly
of course.
say that I sort of scrolled through some of the names of people who are watching here, and I just want to say thank you to all the people I know who didn't. I'm delighted to see names like Corey and Jean and Megan, and there are others, but I just glanced at them again. So thanks for coming along and watching.
And I mean, that's the other wonderful part of this torturous time we're all in, is that it's a great way to connect people that geographically otherwise wouldn't have been able to see the work that for Peter and Elizabeth and Howard and Geoffrey and Gideon to be in the same room, and then people all over the country or world to be able to witness that. So there are some bright spots. And actually, one of the things that came up on Monday is perhaps this can be a tool going forward for more productions to utilize for that text work, for that time, outside of rehearsal, that the actors and or director and dramaturg can really spend some time focusing on this, because that rehearsal time is such at a premium. So maybe this can be a way that that work can still happen, and any actor that has been through it at this level knows how valuable it is, and so yeah, hopefully it can just be integrated in more productions. But any final comments from anyone on the call? speak now, forever hold your peace. I'll be forced to put our house music back on, but play us all out. But no, cool. Well, good. Again, thank you all so much. Again, there are links in the Zoom chat. You know, if you're interested in more, I'll be sure to send out a link with the replay. You know, hopefully that'll be out very soon. But just give us a day or two to turn that around. And the Julius Caesar team can stay put. I'll be moving people back into the waiting room, and this is where it becomes like the jumping beans or crickets, where names start flying around as I attempt to grab people. So again, thank you so much for coming, and yeah, hope you can join us for one of the remaining scenes this week. So all right, let me start to put people in the waiting room, or people are welcome to drop off the call. That'll make my job easier, but otherwise here we go.